Well, good morning and welcome down to Ballintoy. Been here a number of times and for good reason. It's a beautiful, beautiful spot. But given the fact that we've got such stormy conditions this morning, I thought it's a good opportunity to come down and sort of see this place in the summer, so-called summer, with those stormy conditions. Now, I kind of also chose this as well. It's a very westerly wind this morning, and where I am here down at the secret beach, you are a little bit protected from sort of a westerly wind coming in, so it's not as windy. I'm sure as I head out maybe onto the headland there, it might get a little bit more choppy, but as I said in the car, not holding out a huge amount of hope on the horizon for any sort of direct light, but given the fact that this weather system is moving through, you know, even a chink of gap in those clouds, even up to maybe an hour and a half after sunrise, and we might still get some nice conditions. But the coffee has been consumed. I'm feeling wide awake, so let's go see whether we can point our pixel box at something. It's July, folks. Oh my goodness me. We were just getting some lovely colour, just a little bit of reflected light, and now a big squall has moved across. Hopefully it'll move pretty quickly. Oh. Yeah, that's taking any sort of reflected light that we had up. I was set up in a portrait orientation. Whoa, squalliness. You may wonder why I'm not shooting away here. Well, as I say, all that light has now gone. So anyway, I was shooting in a portrait orientation, just had the polarizer on because I wanted to take a little bit of that, or that glare off that sand in the foreground. One of the things I love about this position is that kind of contrast between the colour of the sand and the colour of the sea. Now, a lot of the colour from the sea has disappeared because we've lost that reflective light, but hopefully this squall from the east moves through pretty quickly because, this squall from the west moves through pretty quickly because on the east I can start to see some gaps. I need more coffee. Oh, it's like being back in December. And by the way, this is my Harold jacket. Right, let's see whether this squall's going to move through and leave us with anything. So I'm going to posture that we're not going to get any light at sunrise because the sun has now risen and yeah, completely blocked out. But this is where it now gets interesting because all we need, there's so much kind of drama going on in those clouds above us. All we need is that little chink of light. Now, chinks of light, few and far between over there, so we just have to hope. But at least the rain seems to have moved through. Some just fantastic conditions out there. I say, if we even just got a little chink of light, but we might need to rethink what we're going to be shooting this morning because I don't think we're going to get the beautiful colour. So I might start to do some more, just pick out little bits of the landscape. I'm on the 18-135 on the XT2, and that's allowing me to kind of maybe pick out a few more sort of little bits of that landscape. And of course, you know, even though sunrise has now happened and it's, you know, early July, so quite often by about an hour, 45 minutes after sunrise, the conditions are sometimes a little bit sort of too harsh this time of year. Given the fact that we've got some moody conditions, I think we're going to be fine for a couple of hours here. So, but it really does feel like the middle of winter. Welcome to summer in Northern Ireland, eh? Bathing costumes at the ready. unfortunately, while the squalls have cleared through quite a lot, that has taken a lot of the drama out of the scene. You can probably see behind me here a few more gaps in the clouds, but it really has meant that a lot of that drama out sort of in the far horizon has really just now dissipated, which is disappointing, but hey. So playing about a little bit just again with some of the waves coming in now. I've got the polarizer on to take some of that sheen away, and I'm also using the polarizer wasn't giving me a slow enough shutter speed by itself. It was earlier when the ambient light was lower, so I've thrown on a 4-stop filter. Now with the 4-stop filter and the polarizer, I was then getting, with my sort of settings, my aperture and things, I was getting about a 4-second exposure, which was a little bit too long. It was just kind of smoothing out things, again trying to keep that energy. And so to help that shutter speed, looking for maybe about 2 seconds or so, all I've done is increased my ISO, so keeping all the other settings as they were, so my aperture to give me that depth of field, but just increasing the ISO. Don't be afraid to increase that ISO. Long gone are the days where it all has to be low ISO. Right, might be some sort of colour coming in, or some gaps in those clouds, which might mean we might get a bit of light. One of the problems with shooting sort of this direction without the light, in fact I can now start to see some light come in there. One of the problems with shooting these dark rocks is exactly that. Whenever there's no sort of light on them, they really can be very, very dark, and it can be difficult to balance your exposure with the really, really bright waves. But some beautiful light over Rathlin now. Right, let's see whether or not we're going to get any light on those rocks, and we'll take it from there. So yeah, we really have lost a lot of that light and drama, and sounded like a big old wave coming. Yeah, just again, if you're not aware, if you ever come down here in the winter time, it can be a pretty dangerous place, so just be careful. But yeah, we've lost huge amounts of that light now, and where I talked about little chinks in the clouds, I'm just not sure it's going to happen. Won't give up just yet though. I mean, it is only about 6 o'clock in the morning, so we'll hang around for a little bit longer. But yeah, it's even. I was really kind of, there's a nice shot that you can get kind of over here that I've been looking for. I got it once. Just a little bit of light on those rocks, but just no light. Nice morning though. Nice morning to be out. What you consider down here as well is maybe a couple of images composite together. So if you get a nice splash on the rocks like we did there, but nothing much going on in the foreground, you know, bank that one, and then look to maybe focus on getting one for the foreground here, and then in post maybe merge a couple of those together so you can get the best of the wave action in the foreground, and also a little bit of a smack up against the rocks in the background as well. Real shame we didn't get any light though, but hey. Right, I'll carry on and see whether we can, what's the word, polish a turd. So as I've said countless times this morning, the light hasn't been anywhere near ideal, and I think sometimes you can get fooled into sort of thinking, well, the light's not too bad, I'll just carry on shooting this wide scene. And then when you get home, you end up with a bunch of mediocre images, which is exactly what I was getting this morning. And so I've now focused again back on that just intimate scene. Now, I'm on the 18-135. In an ideal world, I'll have my 1-400 here, because I think I said in a previous video, the 18-135, I find over 100 kind of isn't the sharpest. But have to play what we're given with, and so I've actually switched the camera portrait orientation. I've also put a black and white film simulation on because I want it to be really about tones and the texture in those rocks. Now, What I would like is just a little bit of light on them, because as I said, now there is a little bit of light there. I'm using the polarizer to remove most of the glare. I don't want it to be completely removed because I do want a little bit of that reflection in there. And then I'm just playing around with the shutter speed and having a little bit of the waves either just flowing along the bottom of the frame, or obviously the residual bit of the wave as it sort of comes crashing down. So forgetting completely about that wider scene just because the light isn't playing ball, and looking for a little bit more of an intimate view. Well, that's what I'm doing anyway. Okay, quite a while after sunrise, but the sun has now broken through. Probably still not going to go for, I might go for one little wide shot. I'm not going to point my camera directly into the sun because the dynamic range will be just too bright, but I quite like now how it's lighting up the far sort of horizon here. But more so, on these black rocks, there's lovely little flecks of gold, obviously the lichen, and actually back into a colour simulation on the camera. Sort of, I love how those little gold flecks are kind of just poking through as that sort of waves. But I think what I'm going to do is quickly shoot a couple of wider images, because it is actually a little bit of drama with that sea spray and stuff coming through now. A couple of shags overhead as well. Could be cormorants, I guess. Anyway, let's see whether we can shoot this here a little bit of a wider scene before going back to that intimate scene again. Sun has now broken through quite dramatically. It's a very pleasant morning now, but yeah, way too bright to be sort of shooting the wider scenes now. See, no pleasing us photographers. Before it was just too dark and drab, and now it's too bright. But what that does mean is all the little intimate details that are sort of on that black rock face are really being illuminated now by that sun. Some of that green sort of lichen and seaweed, those little gold flecks. So again, quite out at about 120mm, getting as close as I can to it, so I don't have to sort of extend the lens as much. I mean, I'd love to be out at about 80mm and still be close in, but and really just sort of playing about with the shutter speed. Now, as I said before, what I might end up doing is sort of merging a couple of images together, because to get sort of the right exposure for the waves and the sea sort of at the bottom, and also sort of to illuminate those gold flecks and that the green, I think it's going to need a couple of exposures, but that's okay. All rather pleasant, really. Oh. Now I look silly wearing my Harold jacket, because it is actually a very pleasant morning. So it's important actually that I'm shooting this scene when there is direct sunlight. It keeps coming in, the sun keeps going in and out from behind the clouds, and because I'm underexposing the shot by about a stop and a bit, and that's mainly to sort of not overexpose the waves as they're passing through. If there isn't direct sunlight on those rocks, you really do lose kind of a lot of the impact of what we're going for here. So just when the sun kind of disappears in behind the clouds, I kind of stop shooting, wait till it comes back out again, and you get some of that really, and again, just with the polarizer, not completely polarizing the shot, but just taking a little bit of the sheen off. But I really want to have some of those highlights really sort of poke through, especially the greens and those golds. So, and as was the case in, not sure whether it was the previous video or not, but little intimate scenes, that's what kind of fires me up much more than the wider shot. Of course, I'm still going to go for the wider shot when there's lovely conditions and everything, but little intimate scenes I really love finding. Guys, I'm not quite sure what happened, but I completely forgot to record an outro on that morning, so here we are, outro several weeks later. As I mentioned in the vlog a number of times, we just didn't get the light for the wider views, but here's a couple of examples of semi-decent light in that location at sunrise. Of course, not having the light for the wider view focused my mind on the more intimate shots. And there is a little scene down here. I just love the gold and the greens, and so focusing in on the little intimate areas actually led me to come away with an image that I quite like from the morning, much more than I think an image that I would have taken off the wider view, even if the light had been playing ball. And then there's also another image that I made from a couple of years ago that I'm not sure I've shared anywhere before, that I really love from this area. So we'll leave you with those two images now. As always, thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, take care. Bye bye.